Reclaimed, a podcast that dares to ask the question, is there a better way to live this chapter of our lives? A few years ago now, early in my midlife chapter, I experienced a life-changing burnout. A burnout that made me question my career as a psychologist, my relationships, but also the culture in which I live in, which celebrated or seemed to celebrate this busy hustle culture. So this catapulted me into a midlife course correction, and something that I continue to be on a journey on in terms of reclaiming and creating my midlife. And I'd love you to join in with me. Here we'll question the life-draining systems that exist in our society, and we will open up to our vulnerability with open hearts to find real lasting change. I will open up and share some of my vulnerability, as well as guests who choose to do the same, but also share practical wisdom from my profession, but also from other professions to help guide you with the wisdom needed to explore this chapter of your life and create it the way that you need to. I believe midlife is an opportunity to look in, to discover what is truly satisfying, fulfilling for you, and making those changes along the way. So if you're ready to call out what's broken, connect to your vulnerability like it's a superpower, and reclaim what is truly authentic for you, then you're in the right place. This is Midlife Reclaimed. Let's challenge the status quo, shape a better future for this chapter in our lives, one brave, courageous step at a time. Engaging in this podcast does not intend to create, nor does it create, a therapist and client relationship between you and myself. All the wisdom shared by myself or the guests is general in nature and not intended for your personal circumstances. As I have done for myself, I encourage those who are in distress to seek professional support. If you are in a life-threatening situation, please call your national emergency services. And if you're in need of urgent counselling, please contact any available national telephone services in your nation, or see your doctor as soon as possible. Stay safe, and please remember that you do not need to do this alone. Today on Midlife Reclaimed, I'm joined by one of Australia's leading voices in sex and relationship therapy, Isiah McKimmie. Isiah is a couples therapist, sexologist, and coach who has spent over a decade helping women and couples rediscover connection, deepen intimacy, and reignite desire in their relationships. With not one, but two master's degrees, one in relational psychotherapy and another in science in medicine, sexual counseling, and psychosexual therapy, as well as a postgrad diploma in sexology and a certificate from the prestigious Institute for the Advanced Studies of Human Sexuality. Isiah is one of the most qualified experts in the field. She's worked with thousands of clients, writes a widely read advice column, and teaches the next generation of therapists. But what truly sets her apart is her ability to offer down-to-earth, practical tools that genuinely transform relationships. In this episode, we explore the real-life challenges midlife women face in relationships, especially during burnout. We talk about communication, connection, and the courage it takes to stay open to intimacy when life feels overwhelming. It's a grounded, generous conversation full of wisdom. So let's dive in. Hey, Isiah, welcome to Midlife Reclaimed. It's so wonderful to finally have you on the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. I'm just so glad that we're finally here, because I know we've met many moons ago, back in, not that many moons, but 2021, in a different workplace. And I know whilst we didn't have really the opportunity back then to connect, we've stayed in touch and have really seen your work blow up, at least in what I was seeing through LinkedIn, and just love what you're doing in this space of relationships, couples, sex, talking about sex. Love it. And I know my midlife reclaimed audience, I know me, particularly as a midlife woman who's been through burnout, would benefit so much from your wisdom. So thank you.
Thank you. It's so interesting, isn't it, the perceptions that people have? Because even when we were working together and we were lecturing together, I was getting to lecture
Yeah.
in what I love, but there was so much that was going on at the
Mm,
same time. But I think as we've both stepped away from that
mm,
workplace that probably wasn't serving in some ways, it's allowed us to put energy into more of what I think of what we both enjoy, and I think that's an
mm.
amazing lesson right there.
Oh, thank you for that reflection and just how you shared it, because so true. I feel I've flourished since then, and I've witnessed and seen you and hearing, yeah, you flourished as well. We've been able to put our energies into something. And we were both, yeah, you were lecturing on yeah, what you're passionate about, and I was passionate about teaching, so getting the opportunity to explore different topics and teach, it was certainly great. But as you, yeah, not necessarily the workspace. So a lot of lessons, a lot of understanding that came from that experience. But we're in our areas of passion, but in a space where our energies can be. Certainly, I do this because, that growth rather than, yeah. Um,
Absolutely.
restricted. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Well, on those lines, can you share a little bit about your passions, your work, and what brought you into that space of relationships? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
share. Mm,
It's a good question because it's been a big journey and honestly one that I never really imagined myself
mm,
doing. So I was primarily really interested in sex and sexuality. I had
mm,
grown up with not a whole lot of sex education. I had some curiosity, but not a lot of the information to go along with it. I had
mm,
always felt like I was missing out on what I thought everyone else knew that made it really
mm,
amazing and exciting and allowed them to be really confident in it.
mm, mm,
That started to change for me. I did some travel in Europe and then I kind of discovered Tantra, which is, a kind of
mm,
yoga that people often know because it has really great benefits for sexuality and intimacy. And that really kind of opened my eyes, as well as
mm,
gave me a whole lot of practical tools to learn how to enjoy sex more and how to feel more confident about it and how to really like own my own pleasure and not feel
mm,
guilty or ashamed about the ways that I
mm,
enjoyed myself. And I realized at that point that this was a way I could help people. This is a way I could make a difference to people's lives.
yeah.
I had done a whole lot of training around how to do that, but also realized that I really needed to have the trauma informed, more science based tools and
Okay.
frameworks and strategies to support people. So that's when I went back to study at that point. I studied two masters and a postgraduate diploma.
Oh my
And
God.
then I realized, like, oh my gosh, I also really need to help people with their relationships if I'm going
Mhm,
to help them with their sex lives. And so then I went back to do more study. I studied the Gottman method and emotionally focused therapy, like these gold
mm.
standards of
Yeah.
couple therapy that have decades and decades of research behind them, of really clear tools and communication styles that help people build relationships, help build healthy relationships rather
Mm,
than get stuck in kind of endless fights or drift apart from each other. And so all of that together has really become my passion. I've been working as a
mm,
therapist now for 15 years, helping people with both relationships and sexual intimacy, because for me, I'm very, very
mm,
passionate that they should go together and they should always be addressed together.
mm,
And then last year, after I had finished lecturing in the previous workplace, we spoke about, for me, I hadn't been able to teach the fullness of what I really wanted
mm,
to there. And so, what I started doing last year is actually running training for
mm,
other therapists, particularly couples therapists, who often don't know how to have conversations about sex with their clients, but other
Mm,
therapists who don't know how to. But we've
yeah.
also had a lot of interest from other healthcare practitioners like naturopaths, pelvic floor
Fabulous.
physios, and dietitians, and even gynecologists as well, who
Mm.
are telling me there's a gap in their knowledge and their skills here. And I am so excited and passionate to now be teaching those other professionals so that all of this can really ripple out.
Oh, so like I'm like, oh, like I need you. Like I've seen I don't mind divulging, I self-divulge a lot. I've seen my partner and I have seen a couple counselor, relationship counselor, has found a lot of benefit, but certainly that yeah, talking about sex or that coming up, not at all. And certainly, yeah, needs to be something that is led often by the therapist as well, because the couple may want to and do want to talk about it, but find hard. So I'm like, oh my God, you're amazing in terms of the wealth. The wealth, that's what came across from me, the wealth of knowledge that you have, the wealth of experience you have, and passion, which I think is just amazing. And that lived experience, that your own journey that started all of that around your curiosity with sex and going out there and exploring and finding, because it wasn't something that was in the systems you were exposed to growing up and yeah, into adulthood, which totally not in my systems either. So it's just amazing. Thank you for sharing that. It just I learned a lot more about you hearing that. So yay. Well, let's get into midlife relationship challenges. My first question here is, in your work, what are the most common challenges midlife women face in their committed relationships?
This has been so interesting, the way we've kind of seen this shift, I think,
Mhm.
as well. As women are realizing more about themselves and their worth and what the imbalances have been in the world and in their lives, I am seeing them really speak up more about what they want and how they would like their lives and relationships to be. And I think that's brought some kind of newer challenges to relationships
Mhm.
over the past 15 years. So the biggest challenge that I see that couples come to therapy for is a mismatch in sexual desire. That's
Mhm.
often the kind of the tip of the iceberg, if you like, about why they're here. But of course, that is
Mhm.
connected to so many other things in a relationship. What I
Mhm.
often see women do is blame themselves.
Mhm.
I've changed, my libido has changed. Very often it's gone down. For women, sometimes it's gone up. And
Mhm. I've heard that.
yeah, and they're like, well, now hang on a minute. There are certain things I'm wanting here that I'm not getting. But often it's gone down, and they will. It's really, often that is connected to menopause. But I think we also need to look broader than that,
Mhm.
because it's often connected to uh, needs that have not been met in the relationship, such as their needs for closeness, intimacy, connection, communication, their needs for
Mhm.
a balanced sharing of the mental load and the
Mhm.
chores.
Yeah.
And I think their changed bodies will often kind of bring up this idea of like, my gosh, I have been doing so much that wasn't for me in this relationship. It didn't
Mm,
feel good for me, and they will often kind of have the brakes come on around that, which
mm,
is absolutely understandable. But then we end up with this conflict in the relationship. So that is the biggest challenge. But of
mm,
course, again, everything is connected in a relationship.
mm, mm. But I can so relate to all of that. And just even the women that I work with, I can see that connection to all of what you said. Wow. Makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, I mean, you said that is the biggest challenge that you see, and it's connected. I was just wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about maybe that connection, like how that sort of shows up in some of those relationship challenges that your midlife women, midlife couples bring to you. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
I'm going to take a step back for a
Yeah.
minute and talk about, firstly, like what we know in terms of research,
Mm. Mhm.
there is quite a lot that we know will predict a happy, successful relationship. And there are
Mm.
certain things that we know will predict separation, divorce, unhappiness,
Okay.
arguments
Yeah.
between.
That'll be brilliant. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I break these down into three key areas. We've got connection, which is like your friendship, spending time together, having fun together, being respectful
Mhm.
with each other.
Mm.
That's really the foundation. When
Mhm.
we have a good connection, we're also more likely to have better communication because we're
Mhm.
more likely to be gentle in the way
Mm.
and thoughtful in the ways we're communicating with a
Mm.
partner. So communication is second, and that is how vulnerable we are with each other.
Mm.
It's how we build emotional safety. It's how a couple manages conflict together.
Mhm. Okay.
And in an intimate relationship often really requires some really kind of specialized tools and skills.
Mm.
And again, we've got really clear research around that. But together, connection and communication form the foundation.
Mhm.
And when we've got strong connection and communication, we're much more likely to have great sexual intimacy or
Mm.
sexual alignment together
Yeah.
because that is an important part of an intimate
Mm.
relationship. And for some couples that might be they might be aligned on having sex once a year and both feel really good about that.
Mm.
That's absolutely fine. For other couples, however, someone might want to have sex more often, someone might want to have more playful and adventurous sex.
Mhm.
One partner might just look forward to it more than another. And that
Mm.
imbalance is part of what causes challenges between couples.
Mm.
But
Mhm.
again, that sits on the foundation of connection and communication. And
Mhm.
it's much easier to have great sexual intimacy when you already have a good foundation of the other
Mm.
two.
Mm.
And a lot of people will relate to having great sex flowing back into a feeling of being more connected. So we can
Mm.
end up with a really positive cycle here.
Mm.
So for me, understanding that these three key areas fit
Mm.
together and work together and
Mm.
all need to be addressed is a really important part of how we can look at a relationship. And if there is
Mm.
something missing or something going wrong in any one of those
Mm.
three key areas, we tend to end up with challenges in the others. So, for
Mm.
example, if a couple is really busy because they've been focused on children or the children's
Mm.
transitions or their career or busy days. And then perhaps watch some television and get into bed at night. That's going to make it hard to have the important conversations and it's going to impact sexual desire. If every
Mm.
time a couple tries to talk about something that's really important to one of them and
Mm.
they end up in an argument or with one of them shut down or going around in circles and both feeling unheard, that's
Mm.
going to impact both their connection, their feeling of being connected to each other, their feeling
Mm.
of being good friends. And it's also going to impact their sexual desire because most of us don't want to be sexually intimate with someone we've just had a big argument with.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
and so then the same with sexual desire. If one
Mm.
person is longing for more connection and wanting to feel seen and desired and wanted in that
Mm.
area, and they're not getting it, they're often going to withdraw. In other
Mm.
or if one person is saying, I want more of this kind of sex, this is what's important to me, this is how I feel close to you, and the
Mm.
other isn't able to take that on, we're going to end up again with that
Mm.
disconnection, lower desire, and that's often going to flow into the other areas of their relationship. Couples will talk about, oh, they end up fighting about something really small,
Mm.
but
Mm.
actually, when they look at it, they know it's a deeper issue which
Mm.
might be something around their connection or something around sex that ends up coming out in these small, silly arguments that they
Mm. Mm. I can see how, thank you for sharing that wisdom as well, and how that frame, like I sort of see it as a framework, because I can then see, and I'm sure people listening, watching back, can see, and pinpoint where those issues may be and how they all interrelate and connect as well. Because if if there's disconnection, not connection, we're not having enough of that time of playfulness or whatever it might be that helps you feel connected, that friendliness. And then we don't have the skills, which I know I didn't, my husband and I didn't have the communication skills to really share and be vulnerable and share those deeper issues. And instead, I was going to say argue, but our argument was passive. We would just separate and not
Right.
talk about it. Not great. A different form of argument, but the communication skills, and then being able to communicate your sexual desires, be able to talk about that. I love how you said the foundation, that research that is evident that is needed. It just all makes sense. I can see how you'd have a variety of presentations, but that they're all, yeah, that's what you're looking at, and that's what you're exploring,
Yeah.
expecting with them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's part of why it's always so important for me to look at and to address relationships holistically,
Yeah.
because very often what we're seeing on top is only the tip of the iceberg. And
Yeah.
I always want my clients to make change, quickly, and make change that feels good. But what's really important to me is that they make change that lasts, so that the
Mm.
tools and the skills that we're giving in therapy actually then they take with them and they build a stronger relationship in every single area for the rest of their lives, so that they
Mm.
don't end up back in couples therapy in 2 years saying, oh, it's another issue. Oh, now it's this. It's like, actually, if we do that right from the beginning,
Yeah.
you
Mm.
take away the tools and you keep growing and things keep getting better for you.
Yeah, it's like with myself with, only working with adults, but it's like, yeah, I want to give them what the evidence has shown is those foundational tools. So you don't need to come back to me because whatever you're facing, whatever's going on, I mean, not to say that you may not need a booster or, having that kind of outlet of support at the time, but that you have that foundation of what works in taking care of you. And in your case, the taking care of the couple, taking care of the relationship, with those fundamental foundation understanding. And just from a person who's been in I think it's 25 years or something now, relationship, just from that very personal experience, I'd say 100%, 100% connection. I mean, I know the research indicates it, but just like definitely. And we're still making our way through that. Hey, just a quick break to let you know I've created a free resource called Journaling Your Way Beyond Burnout. It's designed to help you reconnect with yourself, reflect on what truly matters, and includes gentle guidance on how to get the most out of your journaling to support your health and well-being. To receive this gift, all you need to do is join my mailing list, a little burnout care in your inbox. You'll get updates on new podcast episodes, blog posts, helpful resources and services, and personal reflections from me. If that sounds like something you'd find helpful, head to www.burnoutpsychologysupport.com/subscribe, or just check the link in the show notes. Now back to the episode. I wanted to just pivot a little bit, well, pivot-ish. But when it comes to burnout, stress, relationships, and sex, many midlife women, many people, of course, experience, regardless of their stage of life, but particularly because my focus is midlife women, experience that burnout, chronic stress, among other things. How do you notice these factors impact their relationships and intimacy and sex as well? Mm.
Yeah, good question. I so feel for women who reach this point, because we are just given so many messages our whole
Mm.
lives about what we should be doing, and all of these pressures and responsibilities that women end up having within the home and then externally. Of course we end up burnt out. Of course we end up feeling like we don't have time for anything. And then, of course, that impacts how we show up in the
Yeah.
world. So, when we're in a state of stress, it's really hard to also
Mm.
be in a state of deep connection. And if
Mm.
we're also not met by the people in our lives with that ability to see that and to really meet
Mm.
us and to have empathy and compassion, that's going to enhance that even more. If we're not met by this empathy and compassion by our partner, that's going to make it
Mm,
really hard for us to go
mm,
into connection, because we're going to be left dealing with more of those feelings and emotions on our own. And it's already hard to be in connection when we're stressed.
mm,
Or for some people, short-term stress causes a spike in their libido. For both
mm,
men and women, oh, it's been a stressful week. I think I need to get some of that stress out. Kind of, oh, maybe be intimate with someone. But
mm,
long-term stress and
mm,
exhaustion and burnout is often incredibly detrimental. It's what we call a sexual break. It just puts a huge break on our sexual desire. And
mm,
of course, this is biological because, our body is in fight and flight all of
yeah,
the time.
mm,
And intimacy is, partly for reproduction, and
mm,
our body is like, don't need that right now. We don't
mm,
need to rest and digest. We can't be in rest and digest and reproduce. This is not a good time for that. So of course our body isn't going to be able to have
mm,
those physical responses uh,
mm,
that that allow us to be intimate. So it's going to be much harder to even feel in the mood. It's going to be
mm,
harder for us to be turned on, to have all of those physical responses that we need in order to
mm,
enjoy ourselves, and to look forward to intimacy. That isn't going to be happening. So of course that is also going to have an impact on sexual
mm,
intimacy and our relationship with a partner.
mm,
Even if there are really good reasons someone has a reduced interest in sex or no interest in sex at all, it is often hard for a partner who will often take it personally and feel rejected and feel hurt and feel like
mm,
that I want to connect with you in that way. And when couples don't have the language to talk about that together, it takes them further apart instead of potentially being an opportunity. And this is one of the things that I love most in my work, being an opportunity for each of them to share more about what's really going on inside and have them
mm,
develop that understanding, that much deeper understanding of each other, and then being able to work together to fully
mm,
support each other.
mm. Wow, so much depth there of understanding. I just see all the intricate details there. There's so much, and again, relate to it heavily in terms of the challenges when we go through burnout in chronic stress on the relationship. And I see all those elements you mentioned before that are important: the open communication, the connection, opportunity, as you said, too, to be able to grow in those areas well, and that's where help of an expert like you would be so great. Yeah, and something you mentioned earlier that I just feel like I've been feeling like bringing it back in. You mentioned women, and I see this all the time in practice. We've got that heavy mental load, emotional load too, because we're often the caregivers, we're giving a lot out, but that there's also this learned shame response of I'm to blame, like it's my issue, I'm at fault. So if there's something going wrong in the sex area of relationship or other areas, that not all the time, but often I see women, it's me, it's, and what can I do to fix it, it's my responsibility. And again relate to that, and I've worked on that and moved away from that, but that a lot of women are still stuck in that. And I just wanted to bring that back in and see if you have any further things you'd like to expand on that, because it's such a big thing.
I love that you brought that up again.
Mhm.
So often I will have women show up and say, I need to fix this. Otherwise, my relationship is over. Can you give me tools? Can we work on this? And I think it's one of the reasons that I've become so passionate about an integrated approach and combining couples therapy with sex therapy, because again, most of the time I don't think I've ever seen a time where it's the woman's fault or the woman's problem. And also, we get better results when a couple is working as a team and they're both working on it together. So whatever percentage each partner is being in, it actually doesn't matter. If this is something that you need to work on as a team to get the fastest and best results and to have that long-term stability and
Mm,
happiness in a
mm,
relationship. And I always feel um,
mm,
my heart hurts when I have women showing up, and I'm doing that intake call and they're telling me, oh, it's me. Um, and I'm
mm.
always wanting to say to them,
Yeah.
actually, there's more here. I'm sure there are really good reasons that you have changed, that your libido has changed,
Mm,
that you're no longer satisfied with
mm.
what's going on. And I really, again, I love when I get to work with those couples who are both willing to show up and work on it and change things together.
And that really important point you mentioned there, the willing parties, because yeah, sometimes there's one willing party and the other party is not willing, and yeah, but that I love that word team because regardless of the percentage, like you said, regardless of that, it's a relationship, not one person. You can't have sex on your own. Well, like, okay, you can, but this is a partnership. This is a relationship. There's two people here, or however many people are in that relationship. It's a team, and therefore any problems in the team, any issues, any fractures, whatever, it's a team effort. And that's something with my own libido changes, which, yeah, combination of burnout and perimenopause, all those the larger issues, definitely, as I'm coming to know myself and break old patterns. But that I started off with the natural, oh, it's my fault. I need to, well, not my fault. It's my body. It's going on in my body. I need to find the resolution. And as I went down that rabbit hole, like, oh no, this is regardless if it was just to do with perimenopause, it's still a dual thing because it's a relationship thing. Open communication, connection. Um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because the reality is sexual function will change for all of us as we
Yeah,
age.
yeah.
What we need, what we like, what turns us on
Mm,
will also change. Our needs will change. And it is possible for couples to have really wonderful, satisfying, intimate lives well into their 70s and 80s. I often cite the high rates of chlamydia in nursing homes as kind of
huge.
evidence of, yeah, I think, and one
I'm
of the things,
excited. Like, it's like, yay, they are. Like, I'm not, past me might have been grossed out by that, but I'm just like, I'm excited. Maybe, again, maybe from, it's beautiful, it's hopeful, it's optimistic, we're human. So, yes, okay. We're still
that's
having sex
right.
way into our 80s, 90s, whatever.
Yes, yes, we certainly can be. And one of the things that we know about women as well is that if women get into a new relationship at any
Mm.
age, our libido spikes again. There seems to be something about the novelty, that new relationship energy that actually has that, and that change of chemicals that it causes within us, that causes our libido to spike. So if women are in a long-term relationship and they've had a whole lot of stuff building up and they're not getting their emotional needs met, all of those factors are going to be working
Mm,
against them.
mm,
They get into a new relationship with a really attentive, great partner, their libido is going to go through the roof. And so I know
mm.
that that isn't going to be the option that most couples are looking
Wants
for.
to.
But I think what it really shows is that our loss of desire is not an inevitability. It is
Mm,
something that if we choose to, we
mm,
can culture and nurture, um, and,
mm,
and it can become a meaningful part of our lives that is pleasurable and fulfilling for us as
mm.
well as for a partner.
Yeah, no, beautiful, Isiah. Well, I've got this section down, but we've already been we're already talking about sex because, like you said from the very beginning, you can't, it's not separate, it's together. So even though I did originally separate it on my question, so this is the next one. Next one. I know we've been, certainly talking about this as we go, but might be adding to this. So what are the unique challenges midlife women bring to you in the realm of sex? And I feel like, yeah, we've certainly been talking about them, but is there other things you'd like to elaborate on with that?
Yeah, I mean, if we talk more specifically, because some of the like um, very real physical concerns that women bring are so important to acknowledge and address as well. And that is our function will change. We will often experience changes in lubrication. So
Mm,
often, even from our 30s onwards, we will find it more difficult to lubricate. And very often, there's a psychological component that goes with that for
okay.
both partners. Again, for women, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. My body isn't doing what it should. I'm not as
Mm,
feminine. Or from both partners, it can be taken as an indication of turn on, which it is not.
mm,
If a woman is not lubricating, it does not necessarily mean that she isn't enjoying herself.
mm,
And
mm,
so I think that's really, really important to keep
mm,
in mind that everyone can benefit from the use of a really good lubricant. But
mm,
especially as we age, this is important not because our body isn't doing what it should, but because it can actually enhance our pleasure. It can make things
mm,
feel better, even if a partner is just using their hands. It can feel much better to have a really good lubricant there. Of course, the atrophy, the thinning of the skin around the vulva and vagina, it means that women can experience increased pain.
mm, mhm,
And so that means that, again, there's potentially a change in how you're engaging with a partner. I think
mm.
across the lifespan, what I see is that couples don't spend enough time in foreplay. So,
Awesome.
women in particular, our bodies go through really complex changes in order to prepare for sex. So, we have a whole lot of erectile tissues in our genitals as well. Ours is just internal. And we're going to experience more pleasure when we allow time for all those erectile networks to engorge with blood.
Mm,
When we
mm,
allow time for lubrication or add a lubricant in as well, our vaginal canal also goes through a process called tenting, where the muscles that hold the uterus in place contract and the vaginal canal opens like a tent.
mm,
It prepares for a penetrating object. But
mm.
all of these changes right throughout the lifespan take at least 20 minutes to occur. And that's
Okay.
going to be longer if women are starting from a place of stress and thinking about everything
Um,
that needs to be done. So women will often ask me, well, how do I like flip from doing everything to, I'm like, well, you don't just flip. No, it's not a switch in your head. What you're going to need to do is take time to prepare for that
mm,
encounter, have a bath, have a shower, leave your partner cleaning up downstairs, go and take your
mm,
time getting ready, have a date together, sit down, have a conversation together. So you're not trying to switch. And then spend
mm.
at least 20 minutes in foreplay and potentially as we age, even longer. So even
Okay.
when I was running in my 20s, workshops for women around sexuality, and I would tell women in large groups like, okay, we need to have at least 20 minutes of foreplay. I would always have someone like put up their hand and say,
Mm.
can we tell our partners it's longer? But are you sure it's not 45 minutes or an hour? And I would be like, you tell your partner whatever
What
number
you
you want. I will always back you up on
Yeah.
that.
If you
Whatever
feel
number
you
you
need more, yeah, to, yeah, be in the mood to, yeah, physiologically, yeah, prepare.
That's
Mm,
right. And I
mm,
think even that, even that term foreplay, we're trying to move away from to just
okay.
be non-penetrative sex, because sex doesn't need to end in penis and vagina.
Mm,
It doesn't need to end in penetration. It doesn't need to end in an orgasm to be really satisfying and loving and enjoyable.
okay.
So
Mm.
this love play, if you like,
Oh, I
can
love it.
last a
Mm,
really long time. And if you do want to include penetration in that, just know that it's probably going to need to come after you've been really
mm,
engaging with each other in a really beautiful way for a while.
mm,
So I think
mm,
um, the that some of the really, again, real challenges that women
mm,
face physically, of course, there is also the psychological
mm,
component that we have. and this, happens for women throughout their lives.
Mm,
Then after, if women have children, how their bodies changed after having
mm,
children, but then how are their bodies changing? How are they changing physically? Not just how are they functioning differently? Um,
mm,
as through menopause and beyond.
mm,
That can be a real kind of factor for women in no
mm.
longer feeling feminine or sexy or seen in those ways. And of course, that can
Yeah.
inhibit our desire for sexual intimacy.
Yeah, like, are you talking about there, so like that relationship with our own body and our, yeah, I refer to it as my relationship with my body now, not always, and how I felt about her across the years, and a lot of, yeah, low confidence, low self-esteem due to a lot of learned body shaming behaviors growing up. And it's just, widespread in our culture. But and how that then impedes psychologically to engage in sex in my words, a freeing way, where I know what my needs are, can, yeah, and the needs are, then can just, and I love your words, love play. I love that, but can engage freely in that. Is that what you notice? Yeah, women, and because our body changes as well, and those different times in our life, having children, um, becoming a mother, and and then also midlife and aging, and what that triggers within can all affect how we, yeah, show up and how we engage in sex. Yeah. Mm,
Absolutely. And I also want to mention the other side of this, which I kind of alluded to at the beginning, which is for some women, this change in their lives and this
mm,
idea that they can no longer get pregnant, or this idea that, wow, life is now for them and they're kind of
mm,
taking it on in a different way, can lead to a really positive engagement with
mm,
sex
mm,
and intimacy and an increased libido. And I
mm.
really want to acknowledge
Yeah,
both men as
both
well.
of them, yeah. Mm,
And that they can be struggling if they are in a relationship as well with a partner whose desire is decreasing because their
mm,
partner is going through function challenges and body
mm,
changes as well. And
mm,
our research actually shows that when sex finishes completely between a couple, it's actually in heterosexual couples, it's the male's choice because they no longer function the way they are used to, and so
mm,
all of their psychological
mm,
kind of criticisms come up around that, and so they put a final end to intimacy. So I want to acknowledge that this happens for all kind of genders, and again for those women, because it is often, I think we are seeing a cultural change around this, but it is often challenging for women who are like, I like sex, I want it, I want to go out, I
mm.
want these things around it. There can often be that judgment or the shame that they experience around that. So I so mention.
Yeah. I just started watching it, a show on Disney, I think. It's got Michelle, gotten her last name, actress,
Williams?
which
Is it
Michelle
Michelle
Williams.
Williams? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
brilliant actress. But I think she's a woman in her, I don't know what age, but she's been through cancer, then gets that prognosis of yeah, that the cancer's come back. But putting that aside, it's the sex. Like, she's wanting to have sex with her long-term partner, her husband, I think, whoever, and he's just, yeah, not there, but she's really needing it. And it seems really interesting. I need to get into it, but you just remind me, as you shared, that not to forget the women where their libido is, yeah, it's there, they're wanting sex, and what they confront, and it can be that shaming around our culture of a woman wanting sex. um yeah, 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 so it's like have you seen that show?
I haven't. I've seen it come up. It's on my list.
It's like, yeah, there'd be many. And it's just good that this is getting out there because, a lot of us are watching shows, a lot of us consume a lot of media. And so if these messages that show women in all these different ways in which their relationship with sex is, and meeting those needs where they can, or the struggles they're having in their relationship. It just helps break down those barriers that, oh, okay, this is okay. Or, for someone else watching, you're like, oh, I'm a woman who, wants a lot of sex in my relationship, but it's, that this is okay. I feel like it breaks the shame, or at least helps start to shift the culture and break the shame.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. And even like I think you've been saying across the lifespan too. I know in my um, I suppose, age group and growing up. I mean, certainly a woman who wanted sex, who, or even had multiple partners or something like that, it was a huge shame. You were, excuse the, but slut. That was the name. And I'm not sure how that shifted or changed over the years. But yeah, that view. Whereas a male in my age group, yeah, good on you. Well done, you, king of the hill. And we are all, regardless of gender, regardless, have different sexual needs, and that will fluctuate, as you're saying, throughout our lifespan, and it's all okay, and it's all relevant, and it's all, yeah,
That's right.
accepted.
Hey there. I promise you this is just a short break from your podcast viewing or listening. Thank you, by the way, for tuning in to let you know where all of this started. Back in my burnout height, I kept a journal. And the reason I kept a journal, and I never kept a journal before, well, I kept a diary as a teenager, but only for a short while. But the reason why I chose to journal is because I realized how disconnected I had become from myself, and I really wanted to connect in. So I used writing as the way in which to do that. And I ended up publishing just myself these journal entries up on a blog, and had a few followers and people who really found it helpful that I shared my very raw experiences, which later down the track, as I improved, I decided to put it into a book, which, just bear with me, it's just up here on my shelf, proudly. It's called Nothing Left to Give, A Psychologist's Path Back from Burnout, and basically is the collection of all the journal entries I kept for around a year. So from around December, January 2020, 20 to 21, to January the following year, so 2022. Yeah, so it's all in there. And also, besides the raw feelings, thoughts, everything that was coming up, lots of perfectionism, lots of self-sabotage, self-sacrifice, my journey into therapy, so many things are in there. And I've also included some of the all the wellness practices that often, as I would journal, I would connect with, from my own knowledge and wisdom, being a psychologist, to help support me out of and beyond the burnout. I also was collecting a lot of knowledge and wisdom and skills at the time through the therapy I went into and did, and also just a lot of reading, listening to podcasts, and just stuff like that, building my resources. So it's all in there, and it's in ebook as well as paperback, just not audio yet. I'd love that. And it's 25.99 Australian, and for the ebook, $11.99 Australian. You can purchase it on Amazon in either of those forms. And please let me know if you do purchase it, read it. I'd love to hear from you, to see what it has meant to you. But back to your episode. Take care of you.
Favorite kind of exercises that I
Hmm.
often do with couple. I mean, I have a lot of favorites. I have a lot of favorites.
Oh, go on to, because that was my next thing. Like,
games
what?
and tools.
Yeah, what do you
I'll
do
get
with
to some of the more fun ones, but one of like the really powerful things that I do with couples where there is a mismatch in desire,
Mm,
and and especially if they've been struggling to talk about sex or to be aligned
mm,
on it, is I will have both of them in front of each other talk about their sexual histories. So, what were the early messages you got around sex? Where did you first hear about it? What were those messages like as you developed through puberty? What were those messages that you were getting around you then? And I mean, it seems so obvious sometimes,
Mm,
but often within a couple, people just haven't really thought about this. And I think, often men haven't thought about this, how different those messages have been, how
mm,
differently men and women are socialized around
mm,
sex. And it's so eye-opening when they can look at the other person and go, oh my goodness, that was your wow, like of course, or
yeah.
then, wow, your early experiences were not one of empowerment and celebration.
Mm.
Wow, okay, I can see how that would have changed your attitudes to this. It's always such a beautiful session.
I
Uh,
could imagine. Yeah.
that.
What, how powerful, how powerful. Such an important conversation to have. And yes, made me reflect on my own conversations with my partner and how we can deepen that and really get into it. And it's only been in our later 30s and we're both in our mid 40s now where we've really been able to, I suppose we know ourselves a bit more comfortable in ourselves as well. And comfortable in our unit to and have learned some of the skills through our therapy to openly communicate about these things. But I love, yeah, it sounds like that exercise just to help going deeper into that and more specific around our early sexual experiences and our what we learnt, what we heard, yeah. What like and on that, because that's what my last sort of group of questions is around that strengthening the couple, but what sort of things that you do to help in the realm of the relationship, of course, which I know includes sex as well, like just some of those main things, I suppose, that you tend to work with the clients, just to share with the audience.
Yeah, so there's a
There've been
lot. I have
many.
a whole booklet of my favorite exercises and things that when a couple starts therapy with me, they get
Mm,
a complimentary copy along with some other things to help them on their journey. It
beautiful.
is one of the things that next year I'll be developing that to sell it as a standalone. But for me, there are so many books out there with certain advice on relationships or the love languages, just learn to show love in a different way. But and while there's so much of the conversational that we do in therapy, I also really believe in practical tools and
Mm,
really giving very, very tangible things that couples can do, especially between the sessions to help
mm,
enhance relationships. So,
yeah.
um, what I would do when we kind of think about um, activities and tools in the area of connection, some of the things that I would have them do early on just things like there's a beautiful game called the Appreciation Game where
Mm,
they share with each other something that they appreciate about their partner, but also
mm.
disclose something they appreciate about themselves.
Ooh,
That's really,
powerful.
really powerful to
Mm,
have couples do. So a really simple way that anyone listening can start that at home is really just to
mm,
make a point of every day telling your partner something that you appreciate about them.
mm,
What you tend to find is the more you look for those things, of course, the more you see, and that changes some of the interactions
mm,
between you. Of course, doing things like going on a date night, but a
mhm.
fun date night.
Yeah.
Fun. We don't want this to become routine. We want this to be like a joyful ritual and having fun and playfulness together is a really important way that couples bond. And we often do
Mm,
this really early on in our relationships. We go out, we do something different, we laugh, we play, we flirt. It's really fun. And that is part of what helps couples bond. But as we get into a routine and life becomes really busy, we forget to do so much of that. And so
mm,
couples aren't bonding in the same way. So bringing
mm.
in elements of fun, going on really fun date nights, and they don't have to be big. They can be something you do at home. It can just be somewhere new. That
Oh,
makes
cool.
a big difference as well.
Makes me think of we started doing like picnics and but one day it was raining and
we made it different each time by different food. We love food, and different locations. But one time it was raining, so we did it at home, and we got out the picnic rug. We put it in the lounge room. So just what you're making it fun, making it novel, creative. So even if it is at home, and we were also, in terms of financial, just trying, stick within our budgets. But this, we go out to a park when it was sunny. That was free. And, at the moment, transport into the 50 cents here in Queensland. So, nice and cheap. But yeah, like it's doable. It's possible. There is course challenges, but I hear you. Fun, novelty. I did think of axe throwing. That got vetoed. The axe. I was like, that's fun.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
I like it. I think I'll get my way eventually. We'll just, we'll work on that one. But yeah, just thinking of those examples in my own relationship, fitting that brief, as you said, fun, creative, novel, in those days, not just, same mundane thing. Like my husband sometimes like, well, we walk the dogs daily, we can chat them. That's not about us. That's a family walk. I call that the family walk.
That's a family walk. And those things are really important too. They're part of what we call rituals of connection. So keep doing those.
Oh, we will. Yeah.
We also need that novelty in our lives.
Yeah, I'm like, no, that fulfills something else. And yes, it's very meaningful to us, and we will keep that going. And thankfully our work lives allow for that now. So anyway, but sorry, I feel like I cut. Those couple of things, and I see how it's connected to those fundamentals as connection, communication, with these techniques, these things for them to do in between sessions to strengthen. Yeah. Is there any others you want to share?
No, I think they're always two of the they're going to start to really make a difference for people as we move through those three areas. There are different exercises around getting couples to practice communicating, like the way they share things, and work on their listening as well, like how they listen really well. And there's some really just beautiful exercises in there where couples will often have just conversations in ways they never have before. We have, conversation starters, but also, again, that ways to ask questions that deepen your understanding of each other instead of like a conversation kind of finishing. And then, of course, as we get to the sexual intimacy component, there's a lot of small exercises and they all kind of build up of having couples talk about what they like and what feels good and how they communicate in bed and how they can find new ways of touching each other and enjoying themselves and exploring things. And none of this is ever about, having really wild or kinky sex, unless that's what a couple wants. It's helping them discover together and talk together about what feels good for them and how they can really enhance their pleasure together. And so there's a whole section of the book that I have that has just these really beautiful exercises that that couples can take away with them and build up as they get their confidence and their connection as well.
And that's I really hear that building up, starting with where they're at so they can build up, because it is the things that they're needing to do are often very, I imagine, difficult and challenging things to do. So building up, building that strength, starting small but meaningful. Because I feel like every step, even in the work that I do with adults one-on-one, it's all those smaller steps are meaningful. And it's moving towards whatever the couple wants. Like you said, it's not like, okay, we end with amazing physical,
you install a sex swing in your bedroom and you're gonna, no, that's not where we're going. I mean, look, unless you want to,
that's what you want to. But it's about the couple, like you said, you're helping them build the skills that allows them to be able to explore that. And if that's where they go, or they go there for like 2 years and then go somewhere else for like whatever, the skills to go there. Yeah, I love that, because even in my however many years of life so far, like we shift, we change, our desires are different. And, so having those foundational skills to be able to do that with our partners, whether they're long-term, short-term, whatever, like being able to do that. Yeah. Oh, Isiah, I feel like I can talk for you for ages, and but there's so much richness that you shared, and I really appreciate it. And I want to give an opportunity for you to shout out where people could find you, best way to connect with your work, because like, I know I want to connect more. I'm connected with you on LinkedIn, but like, you're just doing amazing work. How can they reach you? How can they connect with you?
So I'm Isiah McKimmie.sexologist on Instagram for anyone who's using that. I'm fairly searchable. Isiah McKimmie, I am the only one, and I have done a lot of work in the media. So you'll find me fairly easily. There's free resources on my website. I have a team of therapists that work for me now. So whether it's me or one of my team, I would love to. I'd love to speak to you if anyone is thinking that they might benefit from therapy and talking this through. At the moment, I do all of the intake calls. So if you go to my website and go through to book a call, you'll speak with me so that I can work out whether I'm the best therapist or if I place you with one of my team. But there's also some free resources on the website that can support you as well. And I try to show up on Instagram to kind of give this advice that can help get people started.
Yeah, and I'll definitely leave your website details, your Instagram links, so people can easily through the show notes. But yeah, I definitely kind of link. I'm not sure if I'm linked with you on Instagram, but I'm going to do that because it's a way for me to. I love following people's accounts because it's you get that vibe, you get that message. It's a lovely way to get to know a person's work and their vibe and what they do. So always. I think social media is for that reason, a lovely way to connect with a professional, to just get that sense. But also, yeah, that they'll get you with the intake calls. So, to be able to have a bit more of a chat and see where to go and what to do. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Isiah. It's been so fantastic chatting with you about sex, relationships, midlife women, everyone really. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really love this conversation. I always think it's so important that we tailor conversations to women and what's going on for them so that women feel seen and heard. And of course, I love getting to share on this part of our lives that we so often don't get to. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you for joining me on Midlife Reclaimed. I am Shannon A. Swales, and I hope the conversation today sparks some ideas, helps support you along your way in reclaiming your midlife. Now, if you'd like to stay connected, and we encourage you to do so, please subscribe, hit that subscribe button, and stay in contact with Midlife Reclaimed episodes. You can also follow us on social media under Shannon A. Swales. And also, if you want to dive deeper into this and be part of a community, check out our Midlife Reclaimed membership. The link is in the show notes. Now, before you go, please remember that if you're feeling overwhelmed, distressed, seek professional support. This podcast, whilst delivers valuable content, it is general in nature, is not a replacement for therapist-client relationships. So we, from the bottom of our heart, encourage you to seek that support. We're not meant to do this alone. Let's reclaim our midlife together, one courageous, bold step at a time. Take care of you. Bye for now.